Well, the next startup started out by providing an online ordering platform for at-table ordering and a payment system for in-venue diners. In the wake of the COVID-19 crisis, you would imagine that could be a little bit difficult, so a massive hit to the hospo industry. HungryHungry had to quickly pivot their tech away from the venue and to more online. To tell us more, we're joined by the co-founders of HungryHungry, Mark Calabro and also Shannon Hautot. Thanks so much for your time, Shannon and Mark.
Yeah, good morning, Ahron.
Talk to us about HungryHungry, because like a lot of startups, you have this great idea. Let's bring people together and to make the jobs of restaurants fantastic, and then bang, coronavirus hits and you're back to square one.
Yeah, it's a very different world that we're living in. Only 3 weeks into this, we started over a year ago as a tech platform that was really about helping venues transact in the venue and process ordering with a digital menu.
Now, that anxiety, I would imagine, when did it begin? About February, I would say, where you're looking at what's happening around the world and you're thinking, how will our business model stack up to this? When did you start starting to worry about it, but when did you also start to think about how you could pivot?
Probably the first indicator was the talk of restrictions. So we saw what happened in China with a bit of a lockdown there. Well, that's a bit of an understatement, but they're just starting to see restaurants close. It's a repeat of what happened back in the days of SARS. And so we saw that, this might be something that will definitely come to Australia and affect us. So that's about the February sort of mark was when we decided, let's make a concerted effort to see what else is out there on the market other than just at table ordering.
There's this great little restaurant called Red China that I go to in Melbourne when it was open, where it's kind of like the old 50s diners where you have the jukebox next to you, but it's a computer screen that basically you can order. You don't even have to deal with a person. And that's similar to what you guys use, isn't it? The QR code at the table where you can see the images of the menu and then order and pay for the meal there, and suddenly it shows up. It's a fantastic way, particularly for introverts, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, the speed and ease of which you can now actually browse a menu, and we all love to see food, pictures of the food as well. The tablets and kiosks are an interesting one in a world today. No one's really interested in picking up a tablet. In fact, no one's sitting inside of a restaurant whilst we're in this lockdown.
But given what you guys have created, just kind of thinking about it, if what you had was in every restaurant, restaurants would probably be able to operate because you'd be there, they could have, a table between, and given the fact that there's that lack of human contact through your QR codes and your photos, it's just someone delivering a meal to you. It's actually, it'd probably be right up there with what the government actually wants us to be doing.
Yeah, we see as these restrictions start to ease, we definitely see that technology is going to play a big part. The whole world has gone online. We've heard about Zoom and the number of users that have just been forced to start using technology. So even my wife, she's a teacher at a primary school, so she's now learning how to use Zoom and how to use all this technology, and she's loving it. So I think it's definitely going to be a changed world, and I think we're going to see a lot more technology in the restaurants.
And so how does it work now post-COVID-19? So what do you actually do right now? Because we're talking about the QR code in the restaurants and being able to see the pictures. How does it deal in a world of Uber Eats and Deliveroo?
Yeah, this gives the restaurants an option to be able to brand their own platform to their customers. So
excellent.
We've been very careful in building what is a web platform, and they're able to surface that on their website, their Google My Business, their social media feeds, and it's really about the venue engaging directly with their consumer under their brand.
Which is a really great point, because there have been so many complaints, so much frustration about restaurants. And I know restaurant owners and I say, how are you doing? And they say, we'd be doing great if it wasn't for Uber Eats taking so much of a chunk. And there's a company under us here in Richmond, a bar, which is usually open and they do food and things. And the owner's actually now doing the deliveries himself. So people are walking past a sign, seeing they'll even deliver you a pint if you want a pint. But I said to him, why don't you use Uber? And he says, it's just way too expensive and difficult. And while we know a lot of people are on there, we just wouldn't make any money. We might as well close and join the queue. So how would you guys, just give us a practical example, help the restaurant owner downstairs?
Well, say probably a good example we've seen, probably one of our first restaurants to pivot along with us was the Estelle in Northcote. And basically we had their manager on the phone and she was in tears. Obviously, this was a horrible period for her. But also at the same time, she was in tears with joy because she was able to trade that night, only takeaway and pick up and delivery rather than dining in. So there was a big mixture of emotions for her. And that's kind of the story that we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of people now just forgetting that, like, it's a different world. You've got to remember that people still need to eat. They still want good food. And you've just got to get it out to the people. So we're seeing a lot of people just jumping on this platform at the moment. Literally, we've had hundreds of people that we probably wouldn't normally talk to for another couple of years just approach us and just say, we need to get online. And we're literally getting them online either that day or the next day. It's a 24-hour turnaround at the moment.
It's a real sign as well how technology can be used for good, isn't it? At a time like right now where, people have always been a little bit reluctant. They love the restaurants, and we've been speaking to people across so many different industries who say that farming and agriculture, for example, have been really stuck in the past. There's been this desire from the owners of companies just to keep the status quo going, and restaurants would very much fall into that category, I would imagine, where they just open the shop and people come in and they sit down and they pay at the end. They may have a delivery service that's just an add-on, but now that is the main part of their business, the only part of their business if they want to continue. Just talk to us from your perspective about how technology has been able to adapt, how quickly it's been able to adapt, and also what you think could still be done.
Well, the way that we see it is the consumers are driving a lot of this change in behaviour. Venues, and what's been a really inspiring thing to see as well is that the venues are all of a sudden becoming very collaborative and also very creative. So what we're seeing in just a very short amount of time in this crisis is restaurants really been just pivoting, listening to their customers. What is it that we can do to help you get through this crisis? So there's a real sense of community, and I think what's underpinning that also is a support local message as well. And we're local here in Australia. We're local here in Melbourne. We've got customers in Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane, and we're really working with venues to see how do we plug in more features that helps them service their customers better and easier.
Just to add to that, probably a good thing to point out is, as you mentioned, your restaurant in Richmond. A big part of why he may not be looking to use Uber Eats is just because it's one of those overseas companies, and most of these big aggregators are just owned by overseas companies or are invested heavily by overseas companies. We're a big supporter of supporting local as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You've made me hungry. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Ahron.